Mulberry Springs. Impact by Edwina Lingbottom. Chapter 1. A Whisper of Doom. The quiet town of Mulberry Springs, Michigan, nestled between sprawling forests and the gentle curves of the Cedar River, lay bathed in the golden hues of an October morning. Leaves in brilliant shades of amber and crimson danced in the crisp breeze, swirling down the cracked sidewalks of Main Street. A sense of tranquility settled over the town, where life followed a predictable rhythm.
"Hey,"
she said, leaning over, her long brown curls falling across her shoulder.
"you look like someone just canceled your favorite science fair. NASA confirms meteorite on collision course with Earth, impact site, Michigan. Come on, that has to be fake."
It's not. NASA issued a statement 10 minutes ago. They're tracking a meteorite the size of a small house. It's going to hit somewhere in Michigan.
I mean, what are the odds? Earth is huge. Even Michigan is huge. There's no way it hits here.
The article says it'll pass over Michigan's Upper Peninsula, but new trajectory models show it could shift. If it does, it could hit anywhere in the state.
What do we do?
We find out everything we can.
NASA officials confirm that a meteorite is expected to impact Michigan within 5 days. While exact coordinates remain uncertain, scientists warn that populated areas should prepare for potential damage.
Heard the news, I assume?
Sofia nodded.
Do you have any books on asteroid impacts? Afraid of the end of the world, are you? Not afraid, just bit grim, but if you're looking for answers, this is where you start.
What if the government stops it? I mean, they have missiles, satellites. Wouldn't they just blow it up?
Spencer shook his head. It's not like the movies. If they explode it, the fragments could be just as deadly. They'd need to divert it.
And can they?
Conspiracy theories exploded online.
The government knew about this for years and covered it up. It's not a meteorite, it's a military experiment gone wrong. NASA is lying. There is?
What are they saying?
Spencer scrolled through frantic posts. No one agrees on anything. Some think it'll burn up in the atmosphere. Others say it could wipe out half the state.
Sofia frowned. And what do you think?
Football team captain Jake Lawson stood up and slammed his tray down.
This is bullshot,
he barked.
They'd tell us if we were really in danger.
What if they don't want to start a panic?
Then we should be out there doing something, not sitting in a goddamn cafeteria waiting to die.
Chapter 4. When the Sky Falls. The morning of impact arrived in eerie silence. Many families had already left. The streets were lined with abandoned cars, the town half deserted. Sofia and Spencer stood outside the library, staring at the sky. Everything felt still. The shockwave hit first, an invisible force slamming into them, knocking them backward. Windows shattered, glass spraying like deadly confetti. A roar unlike anything they'd ever heard filled the air. They sprinted. Buildings collapsed behind them, brick and debris raining down like a cruel storm. The ground trembled, a violent quake splitting open asphalt roads. Fire licked the sky, the world turning into a twisted nightmare of smoke and ruin. Then, darkness. Chapter 5. Rising from Ruins. When Spencer woke up, the world was unrecognizable. The sky, once blue, was now an apocalyptic grey, thick with dust and smoke. Beside him, Sofia stirred, groaning as she sat up. Her cheek was cut, streaked with blood and dirt. The town was gone. They wandered through the wreckage. A few survivors stumbled out from collapsed homes and overturned cars, dazed and bleeding. The community center, once a place for school plays and potlucks, was now a makeshift shelter. Inside, people huddled in shock. Sofia reached for her sketchbook, her hands shaking.
Why are you drawing?
Spencer asked.
Her voice was quiet but steady. Because we have to remember.
Chapter 6. The Aftermath. The first night after the impact was a nightmare. Mulberry Springs, once a place of quiet routines and friendly faces, had become a wasteland of ash and ruin. Fires flickered in the distance, sending black smoke curling into the sky. The air tasted of dust and burnt wood, clogging throats and lungs. At the community center, now a makeshift refuge for survivors, Spencer and Sofia helped where they could. A young girl, no older than 6, clung to Sofia's arm, her cheeks streaked with soot. She hadn't spoken since she'd arrived.
Sofia knelt beside her, brushing a lock of tangled hair from her face. "What's your name?"
The girl didn't answer, just stared at the floor with hollow eyes.
She hasn't said a word, a frazzled nurse whispered nearby. She was found alone near the collapsed houses. Parents likely didn't make it.
Sofia felt a lump rise in her throat.
She squeezed the girl's hand. It's okay, she murmured. You're safe now.
Across the room, Spencer sat with a group of volunteers and first responders, working to create a map of the destruction.
We've counted about 200 survivors in town so far,
said Sheriff Walker, his uniform streaked with dirt.
but we have no way of knowing how many more are trapped. The roads are gone.
Spencer muttered, looking at the map.
Rescue crews won't reach us anytime soon.
Sheriff Walker nodded grimly.
We're on our own.
The weight of the words settled over them. Mulberry Springs was cut off from the world, and no one was coming to save them. Chapter 7. The Tipping Point. On the third day, tension in the shelter boiled over. The food supply was running low, and bottled water was almost gone. Some people whispered about leaving the shelter, searching the wreckage for supplies. Others feared what they might find.
We can't just sit here.
A man named Hank Porter shouted, slamming his fist on a table.
If we don't do something, we'll starve.
We need to ration what we have.
Countered Clara Evans, the town's librarian.
Leaving now is dangerous.
More dangerous than dying of thirst.
Murmurs of agreement spread through the room. Spencer and Sofia exchanged glances. People were scared, and scared people made desperate choices. That night, a group of 5 men left the shelter without permission. By morning, only 2 returned.
There were others out there.
One of them muttered, his hands shaking.
People from out of town, they took everything we found.
The reality hit them hard. The meteorite hadn't just destroyed Mulberry Springs. It had turned the world into a battle for survival. And they weren't alone. Chapter 8. A Dangerous Encounter. On the 6th day, Spencer and Sofia ventured out with a small scouting group. They followed Main Street, now barely recognizable, searching for food and medical supplies. As they approached the remains of Pete's diner, they saw movement. 3 men, dressed in scavenged jackets, rifled through the debris, armed. Sophia's heart pounded. They weren't from town.
Spencer whispered, "We need to go."
Too late. One of the men, a tall figure with a scar along his jaw, turned toward them, eyes narrowing.
Well,
He said, stepping forward.
didn't think anyone was left in this ghost town.
His hand rested on a pistol at his hip.
Spencer swallowed hard. We don't want trouble. Neither do we.
The man smirked.
But we do want supplies.
Sophia clenched her fists. They had nothing to give. The standoff lasted only seconds, but it felt like hours. Then, a gunshot rang out. The scavengers bolted, disappearing into the ruins. Behind Spencer and Sofia, Sheriff Walker lowered his rifle.
Get back to the shelter.
He ordered.
We can't stay here forever.
Said Clara Evans.
The longer we wait, the more dangerous it gets. But where do we go?
Asked Sophia.
The roads are blocked, and those men are still out there.
There's an old ranger station outside town.
He said.
It has emergency food stores, if we can get there. Sheriff Walker nodded. It's risky, but it might be our best shot.
Chapter 10. The Exodus. Morning arrived with an eerie grey sky, the air thick with the scent of charred earth. The survivors moved in a tight group, navigating through the wreckage of their town. Each step carried uncertainty, but also determination. Sophia's sketchbook was tucked in her bag, filled with drawings of loss and resilience. Spencer carried a notebook of plans, ideas for rebuilding, for creating something new from the ashes. Mulberry Springs was gone, but its people, they were still here, and they would endure. The end.